Recording is on, and in this session we are going to see call, bind and apply. Correct?
Yes.
Call, bind and apply. You see my screen, right, or not?
No.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen now.
Just before that, in the last session, you explained about one example, that is app 0. This, here we cannot directly use FSTNM and LSTNM directly in the function. Those are members of the object.
Correct.
What was the reason for that?
Directly fstnm app02.ts, right?
Yes, correct.
Because it will check in these two brackets, and that's why that is not accessible to access them directly, right? And
Right.
this will point to enclosing scope. Now fnm. Okay, let's create a new day 23, a readme.md, and today we are going to see call function. We will see. Okay. Now, when you say call, what you're trying to do exactly? Okay, let's first create app01.ts and this const person is equals to just write full name, is of type function, and here I can pass city and country. Okay, and return this dot first name plus some space plus this dot last name plus city so instead of this we can use something like this dot first name, this dot last name, then city, and then country. Okay, this dot first name, this dot city, and the country. Now if you person dot full name, if you call it person dot full name, can you see here it is expecting to say city is ABC and country is PQR. Console.log, it would be like this. day 23. TSC app01.ts. Okay, here we are not specifically using any TypeScript concept, right? So I'm deleting this TS file and let's use this JS file. So I'm just renaming it to the JS. So just to avoid again and again compilation. Okay. And here I can say node app01.js. Can you see undefined ABC? And if you print console.log this, can you see here? So this points to this case, this is pointing to whom? This is pointing to this object. This is what we have seen in the last session. Yes or no?
Yes.
If you write this will point to whom? A wrapping object. In JavaScript, we have seen if you write console.log this over here, it will exactly point to this object, a wrapping object. Okay, and that's why can you see full name and it is printing some function. And that's why you are getting output as undefined. Now you can do something like this. So let me create const person1 ps1. Inside this I can say first name, say NNN, last name MMM. Okay, and now I can do one magic. Console.log here, person is this object, dot full name is this function, dot call with respect to, can you see this should point to whom? This should point to ps1, and here you can pass city and the country, ct1 cn1. Okay, now see here node and this thing. So can you see now? So this console.log this, it is pointing to first name NN, this thing like this, and whenever it is returning, this return statement is printing triple N undefined ct1 and this thing. Why undefined? Last NM. Yeah, N should be capital. Here case sensitive matter comes. See. Hello?
Yes.
Call. Now what is call we will see. So in this call, you said that instead of pointing to the wrapping object, please point this to this object. And these are the two parameters, city and country. City and country. Do you understand this or not?
Actually, this first name and last name we are sending on line number 15 with using the PS object.
Uh-huh.
That I don't understand. Means in the function parameter itself, there are no such arguments.
No, but you are not calling this function directly. You're making full name dot call. You getting my point? You are calling full name dot call, and to the call function The first parameter is this arg, the object to be used in the current object. Which object? This ps1 needs to be used. You didn't call like this. Here there is a no call. Dot call. Can you see here? Is that available here? Dot call? No, but here it is available. And that's what is nothing but call from this call bind and apply. This call function. It's not a method call. You are calling this function with respect to this ps1 this. So inside this function, if you don't pass this, it will automatically point out to this guy, right? But I don't want in some cases, because if I don't pass anything, these two things would be undefined.
Right.
So from external, you have bound this. A value of this should be this ps1. That's what is nothing but what? This call. Let's write the documentation. It might clear your concept. Okay. H3. What is this? Okay. H2. Call. In JavaScript, see now, in JavaScript, call function is a method that allows you to call function with the specified this value and the argument provided individually. It essentially allows you to set the context, this keyword, explicitly when invoking a function. It essentially allows you to set the context, means this keyword, explicitly when calling a function. This is particularly useful in situations where you want to borrow methods from one object to use with the another object, or when you want to execute a function within the specific context. Now, this full name is getting executed. This full name is getting executed with reference of this ps1. With reference of this ps1. Here, if you write first name, say AAA, last name, say BBB. Now here and here, there is a difference. See, if I run the code, can you see here it is printing AAA, BBB, ABC, PQR. So here we can say first name is this AAA, last name is this BBB, city is ABC, country is PQR. But here you have skipped these values and considered these values and called this function. That's what the meaning of call is, right? So here is the syntax of call function. A basic syntax is this: function name dot call this keyword and these arguments. So here function names the function to be called, this arg, the value to be passed as the this parameter when calling a function, and arguments, the optional argument that function requires. So in our case, our function requires two arguments, city and country, and that is nothing but what these two arguments are. So how call works? First, see here, setting the context in this case, what? This keyword, setting the value of this, passing the arguments, and invoking the function. And what? Invoking the function. the first argument, whatever we have written, the first argument passed to the call is the value that should be set as this within the function when it is executed. This allows you to explicitly define. This allows you to explicitly define the context in which the function will be executed. And here, passing the arguments, and then we can pass the arguments. After this parameter, you can pass any number of arguments individually. These arguments will be passed to the function when it is called. These arguments will be passed when it is called. The call method immediately invokes. The call method immediately calls the function invoked on with the specified this argument. So here is the example. Here is the example. This one. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Is that clear? If you have any question, go ahead and ask me. Feel free to ask me asking the questions.
Can you explain please this one, sir?
Which one?
This the program.
Okay. So let's remove all these things.
No, you can just comment it.
Yeah. Is this clear now? See, this is your person object. Person object would be having two keys, first name and last name. Okay. Okay, let's open Canva. Yeah. So this person object, you have first name, last name, and full name.
Right.
Right? And here you are simply calling the function. Yes or no?
Yes.
The full name function is having two parameters, city and country. And if you run this much code, what output you will get is first name AAA, because you have written this first name AAA over here, right?
Right.
So this is the last name, so it will point to this. First look at this, what this line is printing. This line is printing this whole object, which is nothing but this object. Agree?
Okay. Yeah. Including the boolean function.
So this function, this line is printing this object.
Right.
So first you need to understand this. So if I write this inside this function, what would be value of this? You should know this thing. We have invested a session on this. If I write console.log over here, what would be the value? If I write console.log over here, what would be the value? Right? This points to the enclosing scope.
Yes.
So in this case, it would be this. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a minute. Yeah. This points to what? Enclosing scope. Now I need to modify this. I don't want to use this first name and last name, because first name and last name I would be injecting into the object.
Okay.
This outside. So this object would be having first name and last name, right? And they have default values AAA and BBB.
Right.
But whenever I'm calling this full name function, I don't want to print the default values. So what I will do, I will create this object PS1 NNN MMM. And now first name and last name should point to these values and not the default values.
Okay.
How you have accessed the first name and last name? By using this keyword, this dot first name, this dot last name. So There are two things. Either you can set something like this here. Can you see person dot first name is equals to n and person dot last name is equals to mmm, correct?
Okay.
And then you don't need to do this thing, just comment this line and again call this over here. Can you see here? So here at this line a b b b, and here this line n and m are getting printed,
Right.
right? But there is a problem in this approach. You are changing the default values permanently. Yes or no?
Yes.
You are changing the default values permanently. So whenever you call this full name after this, after these two, whenever you call person dot full name, every time you will get n and m and not a and b. I need first name and last name. Default values I need at some places. So this approach is having the problem, which is changing the by default state. But I want to do it conditionally. For this call only, for some calls, I need to have a value for this call, for this line, a value of yours at this line, a value of this would be these two things. But for this call again immediately value would be default. See now. Can you see here? First A and B. Then here you said first name N and M. And then here if you said again you call this only function. Again it is a default. You didn't change anything. Your object default values are intact. So this approach is changing the default values of the object permanently. Right? And in such cases, you need to take a help of something called as call function. Revise it. You tell me, what's the call function? What's the call function?
The call function we use means here using the call function we can inject the value object parameter that you may need for some of the operations in the program. So that will not actually affect the actual defined values of the object.
See, whenever you talk about call function, you need to start with this keyword.
Okay.
So whenever you talk about call, bind and apply, you should start with the default behavior of this keyword. We have these three different functions only because the variance in the behavior of this keyword, right? This keyword behaves differently.
Yes.
Yes or no? In
Yes, yes.
different places, this keyword behaves differently. So you need to manage this keyword wisely, and that can be done using call, bind and apply. So one thing we have seen, what do you mean by call? Shall I move ahead
Yes.
to the apply? Sorry, bind.
Yes.
Okay, let's create another file. I will create a JS file only because this is the core JavaScript concept. See, I could have skipped this part. You are not needing much in the Angular. But if you are facing the interviews, you will get JavaScript. Okay. Now, what is a bind function? What is the bind function? Now, let's create const mdl module, and into that we have x, say 42. So get x is a function which returns this dot x, correct? This dot x. Hello?
Yes, yes.
You are there, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Now, what we can do, const ubd unbd unbounded bd. So what I will do, this mdl dot get x. So this is the function. I can assign it to unbound, right?
Yeah.
Function can be assigned to the, I didn't call it, remember that. Round brackets are missing. I just have assigned it.
Assigned.
And now I can call console.log unbd, and I can call this function. So which function would be getting called over here? Internally?
Get it.
This getX, because you have assigned it. Let us see what happens. app02 dot, okay, ap, rename, node app02 dot js, undefined. Now why you have got undefined?
Because the scope of that this dot x is limited to that MDL. When you are returning this dot x.
Limited to what?
That MDL object.
Just a minute. No, there is no scope, otherwise this shouldn't work. Console.log mdl.getX. So here I am just calling the function. Can you see here you are getting 42. This line is returning you 42.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
This line is returning you 42. But this line is giving you error. The reason behind is this over here. So when you call this unbound to this unbound, this is not getting allocated. And here, this is getting allocated. MDL is the this in this case. MDL is this in this case. Right? And that's why it prints properly. But here, this is undefined. Whenever you do something like this is in React, you will get this thing very clearly. But you're not learning React, just don't worry. Or I can show you one code snippet. React native bind with you can understand this. This is the React code. Okay, and can you see here this dot keyboard did show dot bind function we have used over here in the React. Same thing is happening actually. Now if you do something like this, const Okay, sorry, unbinded. Can you see there is a bind function? There is a bind function, and inside this, just a minute. So here const, this is unbinded. Let's make binded, bnd. Binded is equals to mdl dot get x dot bind. Well, I will show you another example also. And can you see this is asking for this keyword, and you presently we don't have another object, but here we can pass this object like this. And now if you call b and d, this will print definitely undefined, but here it will not print undefined. And just see, here it is printing 42, here it is not 42. Here you said clearly, so whenever you assign the function like this, this is not getting assigned. So whenever you do this thing, this is not getting assigned in this case. You getting my point or not?
Yes, yes.
So whenever you do assign the function to one of the variable, this keyword won't be getting assigned. Only function would be getting assigned. So if you want to assign function like this, so far we have seen normal functions. We have assigned a simple function to the variable and we have called the variable, right?
Right.
So inside this was not the scenario in that case, but here is scenario is something different, and at that time bind comes into the picture. So let us see the documentation and then we will talk again. Okay, h2 bind. So when you say bind in JavaScript, bind method is used to create new function. See, create new function that when called has its this keyword set to the specific value with a given sequence of the arguments preceding any provided when a new function is called. In JavaScript, bind method is used to create a new function that when called has its own this keyword. That's what I'm saying. This function has own reference of this keyword, which doesn't mean that this assignment doesn't make sure that unbound function will have same this like over here. You need to specify a new this keyword, right? So the bind method especially, the bind method is especially useful when you want to create a function with predetermined context value for this, or when you want to partially apply the arguments to the function. I will come back to this point. What do you mean by partially applying? So here is the syntax of this method. First see, here is the syntax of this function. We are creating a new function. This is the original function dot bind. Okay, original function dot bind. So original function means the function from which you need to create the new function. This argument here you can say, and arguments if you have any arguments like this. Okay, so here is how bind function works. H3. Here is how bind function works. First, setting again same this context, then partial application of arguments, and creating a new function bind. So let's first see what do you mean by partial arguments. Now I have this function, and you can say connect to server, and to that there is a URL parameter, there is a protocol parameter, then there is a security key, a key 1, key 2, key 3, and then network ID, right? And the region. These many things it is having, and then it is returning some, I will not make things complicated, URL, comma, protocol, and all other things. Okay, comma, protocol, comma, key 1, key 2, key 3, then network ID, then region. Okay, now what I wanted to do, so if I want to call this function, I need to pass these many variables, correct?
Yes.
Like connect to server, I can pass URL some abc.com, protocol HTTP, key 1 HTTP, some random key, this is second key, this is third key, network ID, some thing like this, and region A, right? And const, it will return some details, dt1 is equals to this. But this is my general function, but sometimes I have fixed regions, like west region I have, protocol I have H or TCP. Okay, fixed, these things are fixed, and network IDs are also fixed. You can say VPC1, and URL is also same, or URL might be changing, but these things are same. So instead you to call this function again and again by changing just these things, what you can do, you can create const. So here we can give some name to this, w, or here we can say TCP west region and VPC1. This is my function name I have created. So TCP west VPC1, this is the function name, and here I can assign connect to server dot bind. Presently there is no this, so I can pass null over here, that is also possible, but here you are creating new function. Okay, here you are creating new function, and I can pass the details. So here I can pass, okay, ABC, first is URL, just shift these arguments, protocol, and here URL. So here what I can do, my network ID, okay, network ID I can say NW, like this. A region is west or a region, and these three are the keys: key, key, and the key. And here is, you have a URL abc.com. So here I can, so what I can do here, I can give some default values, nw, like this. A region is west, and here I can say protocol is TCP. Okay, and if you call TCP this thing here, if you call TCP this thing, first see what you get: const dt2 is equals to this, and console.log dt. Yeah, now if you see undefined TCP, these things are there, right? Means these many things are there. Then you need to pass a URL over here, pqr.com, then key 1, key 7, like this, then key 8, like this, then key 9, and like this. Now if you run this project, can you see pqr.com TCP? Now instead you to call this function again and again, you just have created another function from this function by binding null to this keyword. Presently you don't have this over here, but we can add this also. But here you have created another function variable, altogether another variance of the function TCP west VPC1, right? And this is what nothing but the meaning of this. The bind method is especially useful when you want to create the function with predefined context values for this, or when you want to partially apply arguments to the function, right?
Yeah.
Partially you have assigned here partial argument values. You have assigned partial argument values. So these values, if you, whenever you want to connect TCP west VPC1, you will simply call TCP west VPC1, and these things you will pass in change. Hello?
Yeah. Can you explain line number 26, please?
Okay. So here what you have done, you have given values to this network ID.
I partially said the parameter, right?
Here you set the values to NWID, region, and the protocol. But these values are going to be changed, right?
Okay.
And these, so this is the URL is this, key is this key is this, and this key is this. But TCP west VPC1, this function will remain same for the values network ID, region, and the protocol. So you don't need to pass these three values because you created a new function. Remember that. Here this TCP west VPC1 is altogether new function. It has nothing to do with this function. It is new function, but using this structure. You got it or not?
Yes, I got it. But how come, I mean, the argument sequence vary? How
Yeah,
come it assigns in particular?
no, see, so first three values are network ID, region, and the protocol. You need to follow the sequence. So here you are assigning, you are calling this function means what? So these three values you already have assigned, right? You are
Okay, so
calling
what about null? Null is assigned.
null is a this keyword. If you go here, if you go here and you have assigned unbounded mdl.getX. So here this won't be getting considered, right?
Right.
Here this won't be getting considered. So you have bind this whole mdl to this new function unbinded or binded one.
Yes.
Correct? Now in this case, do not consider this is a function call directly. It is not a function call. Look at the bind. This guy is there.
Yes.
This guy is responsible for assigning values to the this. Do you have any this reference over here?
No.
No. So you don't need to set a value of this because you haven't used this inside this. So if you have not used this, there is no question of assigning the values to this. So here you didn't write a this keyword. Bind has two, bind function has two operations. One operation working with this. See here, documentation. The bind function is especially useful when you want to create a function with predetermined context, means value of this, and when you want to partially apply the arguments to function. So this example is of partially applying. This example is for what? This. Remember that the main purpose of call, bind and apply is this keyword. Apart from that, bind gives you one more facility, is partially applying the variables.
Right.
Yeah.
Using this, that time also asked one question, what is the context exactly?
Context is this. When you say context, is a language. You cannot write this everywhere.
Yeah. So yes, even in the when you explain here, sometimes can you little bit make this keyword, especially point of view of JavaScript, in the italic case.
Ah,
So that this I understand this is a English language, but here this is a special.
correct. So here if you see,
While reading, I get confused. Like
no,
maybe
see,
you can
I got
also
it. What you mean
give
to,
this into italic form.
yeah, I got it. So here if you see, the bind method especially useful when you create the function with the predetermined this. If I write predetermined this, would be jumbling. So this is the English this, or what you mean to say?
Yeah.
And that's why people use a context, predetermined context. The context has some different meaning in different approaches. But
Exactly.
in this paragraph, context points to what? And in the bracket we have written value for this. Okay, so let's complete this. See now, setting the context means this. The first argument of the bind, setting the context. The first argument passed to the bind is a value that should set as within the bound function when it is executed. This allows you to permanently fix the context. This allows you to permanently fix the context in which function would be getting executed. Context means what? This over here. Now see, this allows you to permanently fix the context. So this is English this. And context is referring to the this. Now here, partial application of arguments after the this parameter. Now this is nothing but what? Your this keyword. After the this parameter, you can pass any number of arguments that should be partially applied to the function. These arguments will be prepended to any arguments passed when the bound function is called. Right? That's what we have seen. So here, creating new function, the bind method returns the new function with specified this value. Now this points to our this value and partially applied the arguments while original arguments are unchanged. Here is how code looks like. Example looks like this. Okay. And bind is useful also. Bind is useful for creating partially bounded arguments. So for this, I can get this code. Correct? You got it?
Yes.
Now, third type, app03.js. Apply and call are same. Apply and call are same. There is only difference in apply. So here I can have function greet. So here I can say name and age. Here I can say return hello, name and age is $age. Name and age is name is and this. So here I can say const just a minute. So here this name we don't require, this dot name over here and age like this. Okay, now const person is equals to name is ABC and age is 20. Now console.log greet.apply this person, and this is the difference. In the call we don't pass the array, but here we pass an array. That is the only difference between call and apply. You can say hello name. Here I can say 20. Can you see age is 20? But we didn't use this keyword over here, right? So there is a function parameter called as age. There is a function parameter called as age, and that age is coming from this array 30 and not this 20. This is the only difference in call and apply. Hello?
Yeah, yeah.
Apply. So when you say in JavaScript, here you can say in JavaScript, apply method is similar to the call, but it accepts argument as an array rather than individual arguments. It allows you to call the function. It allows you to call the function with the specified this value. It allows you to call the function with a specified this value and an array of the arguments, and it is particularly useful when number of arguments is dynamic or when you want to pass as an array of the argument to the function. Rest would be same as apply keyword. Rest is same as call function. Rest is same as what? Call function. Hello?
Yes, yes.
So what I will do, JavaScript call bind and apply. So what I request you, revise these things today.
Yes, yes. I need to.
Yeah, there is a homework. You need to tell me the difference between these three things: call, bind and apply.
Mhm.
Okay?
Aniruddha,
Yeah.
can you go to that bind code once? Like previous bind at 0 to
Just a minute, let me stop the recording.